Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. What a horrible 4th of July weekend when you think about the flooding that happened in the state of Texas. You've now got upwards of 80 people dead. The number continues to climb. This poor Mystic summer camp, devastated by the floods. You've got 11 girls at the time of me giving this update, 11 girls still missing. I'm left asking myself, why, right? How does something like this happen? And in many respects, I question my faith in all of this. But I had one of my preacher men that I would often see on Sunday tell me that he questions his faith all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then I got to thinking, God always has a plan. But what is the plan here? So as we see despair on one side of things, then we see this Coast Guard rescue swimmer saves 165 people, a true American hero. You've got two sides of these stories. And, of course, the people of Texas and the nation coming out to help those devastated by these floods. So there's a lot to break down here, including Democrats blaming President Trump for the floods. They want to blame him for everything. My Lord, give me a break. And Grok, the AI chat bot on X, Elon Musk's platform, Grok 2 blaming Trump. Come on. We're going to talk about all of that today on the program, folks. But before we do, I want to tell you about my friends over at Colonial Metals. You know, there's something going on right now. It's called the Rio Reset, and we're days away from that. You've got China, Russia, Iran, and other nations working to literally sink the U.S. dollar. And I mean sink it. If that happens, the dollar falls, there will be one safe haven for you. That safe haven, in my opinion, would be gold and precious metals. Our friends over at Colonial Metals can help you secure your portfolio with precious metals. Specifically, an IRA, a 401k. Transfer that into a precious metals IRA or a portion of it. Colonial Metals Group can help you do that. How do you get in touch with them? freegoldguide.com. That's freegoldguide.com/grant. freegoldguide.com/grant. 800-458-7356 is the number to call as well. Again, these nations waging a virtual Pearl Harbor style attack on the U.S. dollar. Get ahead of it. Colonial Metals Group can help you. freegoldguide.com/grant. That's freegoldguide.com/grant. Loving our folks over at Colonial Metals Group. All right, with that, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
I'll tell you what, I'm torn up over this story out of Texas of the massive floods that moved through. And I'm left asking myself, how does God let something like this happen, right? I can deal with adults being injured and hurt, and I feel sorry for the families when we have adult victims, but there's something about when kids are affected to the level that they were affected at, outside of Austin and San Antonio, basically midway between the two cities, this Kerrville, Texas Hill Country. You've got 80 people dead, 28 children dead of those 80, and 11 kids still missing. Now, as with every tragedy, you get stories of heroism, and then you get stories of total despair. You get some of these stories that you have miracles at work. So when I ask myself, well, how does God let something like this happen? Why does he spare one child who's in a tree for 10 or 12 hours, and neighbors ultimately save that person to the rushing floodwaters, to let 28, my guess is, soon to be close to 40 children perish? Do you question your faith through this? I do question my faith when something like this happens. But I will tell you this: When you talk about questioning faith, I still have all the faith in the world that God is real. And I think it's okay that you question your faith. I had a preacher man tell me once he questions his faith every day. That's a guy who preaches to a flock on a daily basis, and he questions his faith. So what restores my faith is when I hear about a guy by the name of Scott Ruskin, a 26-year-old Coast Guard swimmer who saved 165 people. 165 people. That folks, is like a rescuer extraordinaire. That's an American hero right there. Well, he was talking to the folks at, I believe, CBS, and I think it was this morning. And I wanted to play just a little bit of Scott Ruskin to tell you the good that is still out there, even when you see all of the horrible of kids dying and people dying and couples in their RVs being washed away. And look, we can relate to this in Los Angeles. We had the fires. Very similar situation. Now, with the fires, you had less loss of life. I think the total 30 people died in the fires of 2025 in January. This is now going to be pushing 80, 90, 100 people. But you had far more damage in the fires than you do during these floods. The damage to physical property. Now, I guess when you weigh the two, I'd take the physical property over loss of life. If you could, this is a horrible question to ask, but it does get down to it. I want to ask yourself honestly. If you could give up your house, have everything inside it burned to save one 9-year-old child's life, would you do it? I would, in a heartbeat. Which is why, we talk about you can come back from destruction of property. You can't come back from destruction of life, especially kids. Anyway, Scott Ruskin, just a fabulous hero, 26 years old. I guess he ends up being put on the ground in Kerrville. And so now he's got to triage who needs to get rescued first. He's got to comfort all of these girls, something like 200 girls. He's the sole guy on the ground comforting. And he starts loading them into these helicopters that couldn't always land, by the way. Amazing story. Roll Ruskin.
The Coast Guard launched us and decided to send a rescue crew from Air Station Corpus Christi at about 6:30, 7 a.m. on Friday, the 4th of July. I just happened to be on the duty crew with Ian Hopper, Blair Rougefort, Seth Reeves, some of our crew members in the Coast Guard. And they sent us out. We kind of encountered some pretty serious weather, some of the worst flying we've ever dealt with personally. It took us, which should have been an hour flight, probably took us about 7 or 8 just to get into the landing zone. Once made about 4 different approaches trying to get in, we were able to get boots on the ground with the Air National Guard, Department of Public Safety for Texas, game wardens. And when we decided to leave me on scene at Camp Mystic, that was kind of our main triage site we were trying to help out with. And we decided, hey, if we leave the rescue swimmer on scene, we'll have more space in our Dolphin MH-65. So based on that, I got on scene, boots on the ground at Camp Mystic. Kind of discovered I was the only person there as far as like first responders go. So yeah, I had about 200 kids mostly, all scared, terrified, cold, having probably the worst day of their life. And I just kind of need to triage them, get them to a higher level of care. And get them off the flood zone with a lot of the US-60 Army helicopters.
Talk about how that works. You got 165, close to 200 kids there. How do you get them out? Just one by one?
Yeah, sir, it's a great question. So the United States Army National Guard was landing their 60s with Task Force 1, some of their rescue swimmers, and they were able to land. We kind of came up with 2 different landing zones. There was one off an archery field and then one at a soccer field. So yeah, we were able to kind of land those 60s in there. And then I was kind of the main guy as far as like grabbing people, usually like 15 to 10 kids at a time, maybe one adult with them, and bringing them over to those 60s and getting them to a different LZ.
So what's amazing to me as you listen to this young man, what a professional. It's like, and if you're a first responder out there, I know you're going to relate to this because I know all of you don't think you're heroes. And you're just doing your job, right? How many times you said, oh, yeah, I was just doing my job. Jumping into raging floodwaters, or the risk of jumping into raging floodwaters, rescuing kids, just doing your job. But the speed and precision at which he did it really is quite amazing. And then there's the other side of this story. That is the side of tragedy of those who didn't get saved. We pulled a clip of a mom, cut two for the guys behind the glass. I wanted to just play the clip of this mom for you to show what parents were going through who had their kids here. Now, I know of some parents. So, I spent a lot of time in and around Texas, Dallas area. A lot of kids from the Dallas area down there. I've heard of some parents that had kids there. Thankfully, so far, I've not heard of any of my friends' kids being there. But this is going to hit close to home to a lot of people. Just as here with the wildfires, you had everybody knew somebody affected by this. Roll the mom.
Well, I actually woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and it was raining and I could hear a rushing sound. It was just insane and there was nothing we could do. All we could do is watch while our family was trying to hike up the hill on the other side across this highway to try to get to safety and get out. 2 of their cars were totaled, covered in water. One of them kind of got swept away. It's just devastating. And
some of the girls who likely passed away, probably your daughter's age. Yeah. How is that as a mom?
One of her friends was actually at Camp Mystic and we didn't know if she was okay or not. And then when I found out about all the other girls and their friends of our family here, and I found out that they're little, younger than her, they were littles. And it's so hard to know. I mean, I hope that they find them, but at this point, it's devastating. I can't imagine as a mother what people are going through.
I think that's why this story has captivated the nation, maybe even the world. 855-785-8255, 855-785-8255. Now's when you need faith more than ever. But, boy, I do think it's normal to question your faith when something like this happens and you've got 28 kids now dead, possibly 11 more. The chances of them being found alive, let's just be honest, barring a miracle. And miracles do happen. I remember during 9/11 when I was there, every now and then they found somebody in the rubble, and you thought, how in the world could that happen? It didn't happen very often. There weren't a lot, but it did happen. So I think people are still holding out some hope, but the chances realistically are slim to none on all of that. So when you think about this, and you think about the state of where we are in America today, of how Democrats, in particular, I will say this, instantly try to politicize this story. They come out blaming President Trump for cuts to the National Weather Service now. Blaming President Trump as if he could predict how fast that river would come up in an hour, as if the National Weather Service and any meteorologist could. The Associated Press came out with a story saying they actually had extra meteorologists on duty knowing there was a big storm coming. The problem to me seems like the alerts went out in the middle of the night and nobody is awake to receive the alerts. You got the owner of this camp who also appears to be a hero. The owner of the camp literally for decades has been having Texas families and beyond, by the way, come down. He lost his life saving these girls. And the littlest, the smallest of the campers were down closest to the river. I believe so it wasn't so far for them to walk. They didn't have to walk uphill. They called it Senior Hill, where you had most of the survivors, because the oldest crew was up because they could walk further. This is a 1-in-100-year flood, and they want to blame President Trump. And then I look at Grok. I don't know what's going on with Elon, but Grok is the X version of AI. People ask Grok a question, is President Trump to blame? Grok came back, yes, 30% cuts to the National Weather Service, 17% of the meteorologists, I believe. And Grok comes back, yes, President Trump's cuts are to blame. Now, does Elon program that himself? Maybe. My patience is wearing thin with Elon on this nonsense, by the way. And then he says he's going to start a new party. That's another story. So Democrats blaming President Trump. We'll talk about that. And then you've got, does this story really have to be about race? Have you heard of this Houston area appointee She was pointed to a board that deals with food for poor people. She comes out with one of the most racist accounts of this flooding I've ever heard. I'll play it for you when we come back. Listen to me, folks. You want to get in good shape? You got to get with my friends over at energizedhealth.com/Grant. These folks have helped me so much. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks, and I hardly even did anything. I changed the way I eat around a little bit. I was still eating many of the same foods that I always like. I changed the way I work out a little bit, but I wasn't killing myself. I wasn't really even breaking much of a sweat. But they taught me about what intercellular hydration can do to your body. It's like a miracle process that they have figured out. It's a patent-pending science. And I say about this program, Energized Health, the secret is in the simplicity of the science. But only they know about it. Intercellular hydration. I want you to learn about it, and then I know once you do, you will want to get on board with these guys. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. There's a masterclass there that you can take, and it's about taking your body back. All right. Whether you want to lose 15 pounds and trim it up like me, or you want to lose 200 pounds, my friends at EnergizedHealth.com can help you. They've helped so many of my Stinchfield's Army listeners and viewers. Real America's Voice right here on Rumble. You're going to love these guys. And they got videos, diet. I don't even call it diet. Recipes. They have weekly Zoom calls, personal coaching. You name it. They set you up for success. EnergizedHealth.com/Grant. Pay them a visit today. So leave it to Democrats to politicize the horrific flooding in Texas. Killed 80 people. That number is rising. 28 kids, 11 children still missing. Democrats politicize all this. Let me read you what was floating around on Twitter over the weekend. It only took 9 days for Trump's cuts to the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration to kill dozens of children in Texas when Tropical Storm Barry landed this week. Grant Stern, the executive editor of Occupy Democrats, wrote on X. Here's another one. The people of Texas voted for government services controlled by Donald Trump and Greg Abbott, added Ron Flipkowski, former federal prosecutor and editor-in-chief of Media's Touch News. This is exactly what they're getting. Now, the Associated Press, I'm shocked they wouldn't feed into the narrative, and maybe in other articles they are, but they did look into this and found that extra staff was on board the night of this. So now they're also blaming climate change for the floods. This was flash flooding. Anyone that has ever been in and around Texas or knows someone in Texas knows that storms are biblical in that state. They come as quickly as they leave, and they leave a swath of destruction behind, including flooding. This happens all the time. It's been happening since the beginning of time. President Trump addressed those critics, by the way, that were blaming him for all of this. Roll that.
1 o'clock, rain is forecast at levels you haven't seen before. I said, oh, this is, and so the generals called me, sir, we could change it, but this is the Army. We're sort of used to bad weather. I said, no, don't change it. I'll wear a raincoat and I'll wear a big fat hat so I don't get totally drenched. I'll be okay. I'm such a tough cookie. And then what happens? We get there and there's no rain. And we go 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of watching these great guys marching down Fifth Avenue. It never rained. And then I thought to myself, global warming, they're telling us what's going to happen in 250 years to our planet, but they can't tell us it's going to rain 3 hours before the event. In 250 years from now, the planet's going to burn up or freeze up.
So this is what I'm talking about, and he's right on all of that. You can't blame global warming on every individual event. And actually, if you go through the statistics, we're now in a phase where we are starting to cool. And so, you know, the other sad reality for global warming activists is cold weather kills more people than warm weather does. They don't want to tell you that. But that's an absolute fact. Cold weather is more of a killer than warm weather. So, again, lots of these people going and attacking President Trump. Then you had this political appointee down in Houston, Texas, said some of the most disgusting, heinous things I've ever heard. I know Camp Mystic. I know it because I have friends who have sent their kids there. Thankfully, none were there at the time of this flooding. This is a Christian camp. It is not a white Christian camp. It is not a rich-only Christian camp. It is not an exclude blacks Christian camp. Does it happen to be predominantly white? Yes, it does. But that doesn't mean blacks, Hispanics are not welcome. If that didn't stop this woman from saying just that.
I know I'm probably going to get canceled for this, but Camp Mystic is a whites-only girls Christian camp. They don't even have a token Asian. They don't have a token black person. It is a all white-only conservative Christian camp. If you ain't white, you ain't right, you ain't getting in, you ain't going, period. And I think that context needs to be said in this matter. It's not to say that we don't want the girls to be found, whatever girls that are missing or whatever right now. But you best believe, especially in today's political climate, if this were a group of Hispanic girls, especially with them being in East Texas, should be most likely Hispanic. If this were a group of Hispanic girls out there, this would not be getting this type of coverage that they're getting. No one would give a
I disagree. Now, I always get yelled at because she does make a point about the coverage of minorities versus blonde girls with blue eyes. JonBenet Ramsey is a great example of this. Conservatives will fight to the death that there's no bias in media, apparently, when it comes to this, but there most certainly is. And I worked in mainstream media. I told the story about a little boy in Irving, Texas, who either got washed away down a drainage pipe at a park he was playing at, 3 or 4 years old, or was kidnapped. I tend to believe the boy was kidnapped because they couldn't find any of his remains, not down, where that pipe would ultimately let out, not into the flood control system where the pipe let out. Never had any of his remains found. I thought he was kidnapped. I wanted to cover that story. My news director at the NBC station in Dallas said, no, the family doesn't speak English. It's too hard to cover. That's an absolute fact. Now, if that little boy was blonde and blue eyes, I do believe there'd be more coverage. Now, with that said, what she's saying about this camp is absolutely wrong. Anybody is welcome at this camp. It has been around for decades. There have most certainly been minorities through, but typically, I will say, many of the families are coming from upper middle class families to send their folks to Camp Mystic. I don't know how much it costs to send their kids there, but I imagine it's probably not cheap. So with that, maybe it's a money thing, but it ain't a color thing. You want to hear more from this lunatic?
And all these white people, the parents of these little girls, would be saying things like they need to be deported, they shouldn't have been here in the first place, and yada, yada, yada. So before y'all
pause
at
this
me,
1 second.
Before y'all start leaving.
Do you honestly think any of us, even for illegal alien children, would be saying we need to rescue them and then deport them immediately after they're rescued? No, we would be worried about the lives of these kids. Just as I'm worried if a flood were to rip through a town in Honduras and take 40 children with the floods, I'd be worried about them. To me, quite frankly, it's an insult. All right, continue it.
Y'all come at me, before y'all start leaving hate comments on my page about, oh, these are just kids and they don't know no better, da, 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 da. The parents of these children who are choosing, and it is a choice in 2025, it is definitely a freaking choice to go into East Texas and to make a all-white enclave, exclusionary just for white people, with all the black people in East Texas, with all the Hispanic people in East Texas. Somehow, some way, you have carved out an all-white, whites-only enclave in East Texas for your white children.
So
yeah, I have a problem with that.
Yeah,
I have a big
problem with you. and I got a big problem with you. You know what she's quietly saying is they deserved it. They deserved to be killed in these raging floodwaters because they were white. 855-785-8255. 855-785-8255. What do you think of that? To me, it's absolutely disgusting. And this woman, I believe she's no longer on the board that she was appointed to, thankfully. But she needs to really, you know how you hold a person like this accountable? Is you hold them accountable by approaching them and asking them, what were you thinking if you're friends with them? I mean, obviously, you can't throw somebody like this in jail. It's a free country. You could say whatever you want. But she seemed to me like she was hoping that these kids are dead because they're white and wealthy. Man, oh, man, oh, man. What have we come to as a nation? Let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. Why are you with the big three cell phone companies? They're literally doing everything they can to ruin America with the woke policies, the DEI nonsense, funding places like Planned Parenthood. But if you get with Patriot Mobile, you get America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And if you use my promo code GRANT at patriotmobile.com/Grant, you'll get a free month service, which is a big savings. So just call Patriot Mobile at 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, and do what I did. Make the switch. In fact, my phone has two networks, one phone. So I have two lines on this phone. No cell phone company can do this because you choose what network you want to be on, but you don't pay the woke cell phone companies. You go with Patriot Mobile, and you know that a portion of the proceeds they make from your cell phone service are going to fund an agenda that's conservative, that's moving us in the right direction, that supports conservative causes. This is what I love about Patriot Mobile. If you're still with the other cell phone companies, I'm going to ask you why, and I'd ask you respectfully, make the switch today. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT, as I said, for a free month service. 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. Make sure you tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. So the one big, beautiful bill passed with flying colors. Turns out it wasn't really as hard as we thought it was going to be. I think the folks in the United States Congress, specifically Republicans, wanted to get home for the 4th of July festivities. They knew what President Trump wanted, so they were going to give him everything he wanted. And apparently they did. And so when you think about this one big, beautiful bill, there's a few very important things or takeaways from this. One would be the tax cuts. By far, the tax cuts are the most important here. The other takeaway from this, though, is this is a victory for President Trump. This sets the stage for the rest of his presidency. This bill shows you the extent of his prowess in Washington, his ability to unify Republicans, his ability to get things done, that in the end, when we need President Trump, he will be there and he will be able to get it done. The media, the Democrats, the two are one and the same. They're beside themselves by all of this. They hate the fact that they got the one big, beautiful bill done. Not so much because of what was in it. Let's be honest. This one big, beautiful bill, for the most part, does a lot to put America back on track. Does it spend too much money? Yes, it does, 100%. But we still start to get America back on track. We're spending more on our border and immigration security than Russia spends on its entire military. To me, that's a good thing. That's an important thing to be spending money on. This gets our tax cuts, as we said, back in play. You put work requirements in place for Medicaid recipients, meaning if you're able-bodied, you can't be on the dime of Americans. You know, I heard Ronald Reagan. I wish I pulled the clip. I didn't. But he basically said he was talking to, and it was like a joke, but it was funny. But it sums up exactly why we need work requirements for Medicaid recipients. He said he was talking to the young girl of liberal parents. And she said she wanted to be president. The first thing she was going to do was was give every homeless person a house and food. And Ronald Reagan says, well, you don't have to be president to do that. You can come over to my house, mow my lawn, clean my house, cook my food, and I'll pay you $50, and I'll take you down to the convenience store, and you can give that homeless guy $50 and let him buy food and put it towards a house. And the little girl told Ronald Reagan, well, why doesn't the homeless guy just come over and work for you and you give him the $50 directly? And Reagan says, welcome to the Republican Party. That's the situation with Medicaid work requirements. Everybody should do their part. You don't just get handouts just to take handouts. Anyway, this was Speaker Mike Johnson, who played a big role in getting this thing passed. Cut 8, if you would, for me, guys.
We made permanent the 2017 Trump's tax cuts, and that was geared for lower and middle class Americans, in spite of everything they said. The bottom 20% of earners saw their lowest federal tax rate in 40 years. Now we're building upon that. We just made that permanent, and we're building upon it because now we cut tax on overtime and tips and had more tax relief for seniors. And we're giving everybody a tax cut, and that's going to help the economy. It's going to be jet fuel. Small business owners, entrepreneurs, risk takers, the people that provide the jobs, manufacturers, farmers get assistance here, and that will lift the economy. The Council of Joint Economic Advisors is expecting a 3% growth rate in the economy. That will be incredible. They're expecting 4 million additional jobs to be added. The average American, the typical American household, will have $13,000 more in take-home pay.
So what is everybody complaining about? Tell me what they're upset about. Why do Democrats hate this bill? They had never been concerned about spending before. Yes, it lifts the debt ceiling. $4 to $5 trillion. You think I like that? No. Democrats are crying and yelling, how can we lift the debt ceiling? Are you kidding me? Where were you? Where were you during the Obama-Biden years when the debt ceiling kept getting pushed higher and higher and higher? They were nowhere to be found. President Trump made it clear that this is a victory. First and foremost, he wanted the tax cuts as well. Cut 12 for you guys.
Just as I promised, we're making the Trump tax cuts permanent and delivering no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security for our great seniors, right? Front row Joe. We got a lot of front row Joes here. That's very nice. Thank you. Thank you. And we have Mr. Wall. Someday I'm buying that suit, I'm telling you. I like that suit. I'll walk up one day, I'll be dressed like a Wall, just like you. I think he's come to about 200 rallies, and that means you like us. And I think he's a very successful guy, too, believe it or not. He's a top accountant. Can you believe this? And he comes to rallies, he likes the rallies. Front row Joes, they're all successful. But this is what they do for entertainment. But now it's not
the entertainment clearly is President Trump. Talk about the front row Joes. There's a documentary about that. I believe my buddy Ed Henry is the one who produced that documentary from Fox News. Now he's over at Newsmax. Great guy. Was with me at Real America's Voice. He's talking about President Trump, Mr. Wall guy. He dressed in like a brick wall. I didn't know he was that successful. I've seen him and met him many times. You probably know him. I thought he was dressed as a giraffe. And I asked him once, why are you dressed as a giraffe? And he got so mad at me that I didn't know it was his Wall outfit. Anyway, President Trump, though, clearly in a very good mood about all of this. Why? Because our borders are also secure. It's a big Trump victory, cut 13.
One big, beautiful bill will deliver the strongest border on earth, the strongest economy on earth, the strongest military on earth, and ensure the United States of America will remain the strongest country anywhere on this beautiful planet of ours. 165 days into the Trump administration, America is on a winning streak like, frankly, nobody's ever seen before in the history of the presidency.
That's true. I mean, think about it. We're winning with Iran. Think about what he did there. Unbelievable. We're winning now with this one big, beautiful bill. We're winning with immigration, finally cracking down on that. Our country's back on track. Job numbers are up. Wages are up. Let's go out to the phone real quick. Let's go to Vincent in L.A., line 2 for me, please.
Hey, Grant. Yeah, so spending in general is not actually the problem. It's what we're spending it on. Normally, under Democrats at least, we invest in the country through infrastructure bills, economic stimulus, things of that nature, things that bring the
Vincent,
foundation.
Remember the big infrastructure bill we had that Democrats passed, this big giant infrastructure bill?
The largest one in the last 20 years?
Yes, the largest one, yes. What was that project that really helped you? What was the one that you just were so happy got pushed through?
Yeah, it wasn't about any particular part of it. It was about the fact.
No, Vincent, I'm asking you, what was that? What was that infrastructure project that you really you loved it, man? It got you really where you needed to be.
I mean, okay, so I really
I
like
didn't think
the
so.
child
Vincent,
care.
thank you very much for the phone call. So this is the problem with liberals. We spend money, okay, on infrastructure, and I believe one of the areas where Americans should be spending money is on infrastructure. That's one of the roles of government, the free flow of commerce. The problem with the infrastructure bill is none of these projects are getting started. None of them are helping anybody. Nobody can name one that helped them. Instead, there was a bunch of COVID money caught up in all of this crazy nonsense. There were all kinds of pet projects. You go back and look, USAID was going to be getting all kinds of money in this infrastructure package. Yet Vincent, the big liberal from L.A. who wants to tout how Democrats spend money and invest in America, can't name one project. Not one. Folks, thank you, Vincent. Vincent, you did for me what I just took a whole segment doing, is proving how smart Republicans are and how wrong Democrats are when it comes to running government. Thank you, Vincent. I appreciate that. Please call in again. 855-785-8255 is the number to weigh in on the program. You know, this reminds me, it's all about doom and gloom. You see Kamala Harris's tweet on July 4th. She wants to be governor of California. Why would you want a doom and gloom purveyor of idiocracy to be governor of California? I'll read to you her little tweet or X post, whatever you call them these days, when we come back. I'm going to ask you a question, folks. Do you have an emergency medical kit from the wellness company with all of the antibiotics, antiparasitics, antivirals that you need? I have multiple kits. I've refilled some of these kits. Speed of delivery when it comes to getting medications into your body during a time of need is critical. Check this thing out. I mean, how cool is this? Amoxicillin in here. A Z-Pack is in here. Oh, by the way, ivermectin is in here, right? So you come down with COVID, you start popping that. They got a handy-dandy little guidebook as well that will help you through the use of all of this. This is the guidebook. It works great. Folks, you got to have one of these kits. You should have ammunition, water, food, but you need prescription medications as well. The Wellness Company can help you with that. TWC.health/grant. TWC.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off, and I promise you, you will not regret having this. The only thing you'll regret is not having it when you need it. TWC.health/grant. Get one today. Use that promo code GRANT. How do the prospects of Kamala Harris for California governor sound? How do the prospects of Kamala Harris for United States president sound? Well, we know we rebuked that idea. Nobody wants Kamala Harris as president. Why would we want her as California governor? So the Democrats on July 4th, which is supposed to be a celebration of American history, of the American way of life, we're supposed to be celebrating freedom. And though I know it's not Memorial Day or Veterans Day, but for some reason, July 4th to me seems like a day to celebrate all of us who continue to give us our independence. Can you imagine being a farmer, a shopkeeper, a candle maker, a blacksmith, and standing up to the most powerful government on the face of the earth. That was England at the time. Knowing that the redcoats are coming and it's going to be up to you to push them back and save this country that you now find yourself living in. Could you imagine any of them saying something negative about their new America? I don't think so. They had to have such great love for their country. I saw a opinion piece by a guy by the name of Jimmy Graham. He's a former Navy SEAL. He trains people in the use of firearms out in Colorado. But he said he's tired of people saying they'll die for this country. And I was like, wait, what? I'd die for this country if it came down to it. At least I think I would. It's hard to say. I wasn't a member of the military, but anybody who was, like our buddy Radar there behind the glass, they proved that they are willing to die for this country. But he said, you shouldn't die for this country. He says what it really takes fortitude is living for this country. Because we can all say we die for this country, and most of us never actually have to pay up on that promise. But living for this country, if you say you're going to live for this country, well, you got to pay up almost every day. Now, in some respects, I do my best to live for this country. I think what we do here on the radio, what we do on the podcasting, on the TV show, is, in my opinion, trying to push America forward, trying to inform people what's best for this nation. That's what living for this country is about. Now, you don't need to do it for your living, for your job. But you can live for this country every day by doing something that's going to help America, not hurt it. You don't have to die for America in order to help America. And so I thought it was an interesting editorial piece. The complete opposite of what Kamala Harris tweeted out on July 4th. This 4th of July, I'm taking a moment to reflect. Things are hard right now. They are probably going to get worse before they get better. This is what Kamala writes on X. And she included a photo of her and second wimpo Doug Emhoff at the White House, continuing, but I love our country, and when you love something, you fight for it. Together, we will continue to fight for the ideals of our nation. Well, why did the Democrats spend so long trying to squash and crush the ideals of this nation? Freedom, liberty, making decisions for yourselves. The ability to set your own course, get government out of the way. That's not what Kamala Harris is about. She didn't even come close to having a founder's vision of America. Now, in the photo that she took at the White House, she cropped Joe Biden and Hillary out. So it was just her and her husband. And then I see, who does she take her cues from? Barack Obama. Well, Barack Obama tweets out on July 4th, core Democrat principles are under attack. That's what he tweets out. Core Democrat principles are under attack. America did not protect any. America is not a project of any one individual, Obama writes. Now, what in the world kind of bullcorn is that, folks? America is not the project of any one individual. And I will tell you that America is the project of one individual. All of us individually, collectively. We doing our own thing, and hopefully all with one goal in mind, to preserve freedom, is what makes this country great. It's called liberty. What Barack Obama loves is communism, socialism, where the government, and I use the term collectively, us doing things collectively, they love that term. I don't mean it quite the same way that they do. So Project Doom and Gloom, I want to give you a little bit of a difference, though. This is President Trump on religious freedom. Cut 16.
As we prepare to celebrate 2.5 centuries of freedom, I'm inviting America's great religious communities to pray for our nation and for our people. From the beginning, this has always been a country sustained and strengthened by prayer. So important. If we bring religion back stronger, you're going to see everything get better and better and better. You're going to see it get better and better. So as we chart our course for the next 250 years, let us rededicate ourselves to one nation under God. Right?
Well, I love the idea of one nation under God, for sure. Listen to J.D. Vance real quick. He talks about a golden age ahead of us. This is the exact opposite of what Democrats will talk about. 19.
We're going to look back on this, I really do think, as the beginning of the golden age of the United States of America. And remember, it's not just a bill. It's all of the Trump administration policies that form a coherent whole, where we're trying to make it easier to invest and build in the United States of America. We're trying to make it harder to invest outside of the United States of America. We want to build a future for our own people. So I think when you take the one big, beautiful bill, the president's tariff policies, our energy policies, what it means is that for the first time in a very long time, we're going in the right direction.
We're going in the right direction is right, and that's what we need to do is go in the right direction. Complete opposite viewpoint of Kamala Harris and Barack Obama. That's what America voted for, folks. Alligator Alcatraz, to me, is a great idea, and I think there are some national security experts, including a friend of mine, Mark Morgan, wrote an opinion piece that basically slamming Christie knows. Now, Mark Morgan, you know, is a great friend of this program, was the commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection. He should be a member of the Trump administration, in my humble opinion. The guy is fabulous. But he wrote an op-ed piece for Fox News, basically saying Christie Nome was grandstanding and basically political stunting when it comes to Alligator Alcatraz. Playing, quote, swamp games was the name of his opinion piece. Now, I disagree with him. He goes through the cost of the $250 beds. Each bed costs about $250 a day to run in this tent camp in the middle of the Everglades on a remote airstrip surrounded by alligators and swamp water. You know, you don't need sharks. Alligators will do the trick, right? Well, he goes through the expenses of this and saying there's no way we're saving money. We need real jails and people who really know how to run these jails, not going to states with no ability to run these. Now, one, experience matters, but in the case of housing illegal aliens before deportation, it's a pretty simple game. You bring them in, you feed them, you house them, and then you ship them out. And that's about as simple as it gets. So there's another side to the cost savings here. See, he says ice beds cost $165 a day compared to the $250 a day at Alligator Alcatraz. That's an estimated $450 million a year. Think about the estimated cost of one illegal alien in the United States. With health care, housing, which we've been giving them, it could run up to $100,000, depending on their use of services. Alligator Alcatraz is a marketing tool to get people to self-deport. Just as we talked about the guy in the taco stand that should be self-deporting, and how when you arrest somebody off a taco stand, you're sending a message to those here illegally, get right, do it yourself. You can have a say in how you leave, providing you register on the app and then turn yourself in for deportation. You get a say. That's what Alligator Alcatraz is about. It's about the marketing, the imaging, which President Trump is fabulous at, by the way. It's about the imaging of saying, hey, you know what? Do you want to go here or would you rather do it on your own? Well, the answer is you probably want to do it on your own rather than go to alligator Alcatraz. I don't want to go to alligator Alcatraz. Now, normally this is our time for the Trump MAGA minute, and I said to Dan, because Jen isn't here, I said, what in the heck? I forgot 7:30. What am I doing? And Dan, the phone man, would you like to tell me what you said?
What did I say? I don't remember.
Yes, exactly. Nothing. It's the Trump MAGA minute. That's what we're supposed to do. President Trump talked about deporting. He joked about deporting farmers. There is a cut in there about that, Dan. If you could find it. I just don't have the number. You got it? Okay.
So we have a little problem. The farmers are losing a lot of people. And we figured it out, and we have some great stuff being written, and let the farmers be responsible. And then if the farmers don't do a good job, we'll throw them the hell out of the country. We'll let the illegals stay, and we'll throw the farmer the hell out, okay? Get ready, farmer, I'm telling you. But so the fake news will write that. Donald Trump will throw farmers out of our country. They will write it, because whenever I'm sarcastic, when you can't be sarcastic as a politician. Well, if you're me, you can't be if you're so I want to say I was only kidding. No, the fake news will write it. Donald Trump wants all farmers thrown the hell out of our country. The audience booed the hell out of him. There was no boo.
Well, that is what they write on this. He also talked, and this isn't a joke, though, that if you're going to go visit our national parks, I think Americans should get a break. Foreigners would pay more, 14.
To fund improvements and enhanced experiences across the park system. For this anniversary, I've just signed an executive order to raise entrance fees for foreign tourists while keeping prices low for Americans, and we're going to do that. The national parks will be about America first. We're going to take it America first for the national park.
I love it. Well, why wouldn't you do that? And in fact, I'm wondering, why weren't we doing that before? If you're coming to America to visit. Now, I don't want to make it outrageously expensive where you don't want to visit anymore, but they're our parks. Our tax dollars go to our parks. So let's raise the visitor fees for foreign nationals to come into the parks. Now, I think in some parks, it's free in national parks. I don't know if all parks, but some, I think. Or you can buy a pass, which is always great, too. But anyway, I like the idea of foreigners coming into America should pay more. Thank you, Mr. President. All right, folks, that is going to do it for us. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms. GrantStinchfield.com is the website. You get all the podcasts there. And please, if you're watching, subscribe to the channel, share the channel, like the video, heck, copy and paste the link if you want to, and share it on all of your social media platforms. This is how we get the word out there. So stick with me, please. Again, GrantStinchfield.com. That's GrantStinchfield.com. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of all of you. We'll see you tonight on the Real America's Voice show. Thanks for watching, everybody.